Hi folks, my name is Linda Emmett and welcome to Happiness is an Inside Job. We are the creators of our own reality, we create our own lives. Our mind is our biggest limit and it's our own beliefs, behaviours and habits constantly caught in those cycles that keep us trapped where we are and stand in the way of our own happiness. So throughout this podcast, we're going to take a deep dive into some of those beliefs, habits and patterns, where they show up in your lives and what you can do to change them. Hi folks, on this week's podcast we're going to talk about procrastination, letting our days slip away. And first off, before we even kick off, I want to be very clear with procrastination or procrastinators. Procrastinators are not lazy. I think that's something we can often be telling ourselves when we're procrastinating, that we're just lazy. That's why we're not doing the task. That's not why we're doing the thing that we said we do. And it's not about laziness at all. In fact, people that are procrastinating, they tend to be doing something else, anything else, just avoiding particular tasks. And procrastination is actually a coping mechanism. So firstly, we're going to look at exactly what procrastination is and then dive into a few of the things we can do to start eliminating it. What is procrastination? Procrastination is avoiding tasks or things that we said we do for no good reason, even though we expect there'll be negative consequences to our avoidance. So it's committing to doing things or knowing that we've to do particular tasks or things and then completely avoiding them, even though we know that they're things that we have to do, be it work, at home, be it as part of a new diet, whatever it is, it's completely avoiding doing those things to get you on that path or to get those work tasks done, even though we're aware that they will have a negative impact. And then I suppose it's looking at why do we get stuck in procrastination? Because we can get caught in a cycle that keeps showing up regularly, and then we can end up being extremely hard on ourselves because of it. So procrastination is mainly a protective mechanism. We're protecting ourselves. Now, I know that might seem strange, but bearing in mind, it's not rational. We are not rational creatures. We're emotional. It is usually a reaction to threat or fear. And what effectively happens is when we think of a particular task that we have to do and we're fearful of it, we're worried about it, our amygdala is triggered, and that triggers our fight or flight. And when our fight or flight then is then triggered, our prefrontal cortex isn't functioning as well, it's disengaged. And our amygdala overrides our prefrontal cortex, which is our rational thinking. That's the knowing that we need to do this task. That's overridden by how we're feeling now. And at the moment, we're feeling threatened, so we'll move straight into avoidance. And we tend to avoid tasks that invoke negative feelings, like dread is one of them, absolutely dreading doing it. Feeling incompetent, feeling like you're not good enough, it's not going to be perfect, you don't know enough. Feelings of insecurity, these are the feelings that cause us to want to avoid the task, which in turn causes the procrastination, us finding ways of avoiding the task. It's the feelings that we're avoiding that we've subconsciously attached to the tasks. And looking at frequent procrastinators, which certainly in the past I would have procrastinated a huge amount, and it still shows up in my life, especially in business. There's particular things that I absolutely will avoid for lengths, even though then when I rethink about doing them, I'm getting stressed all over again. In the moment, I'm avoiding stress. So giving an example of that, say I say to myself, okay, I've to do my books for business for last year to get them ready for tax and for submitting them for me tax clearance. automatically I see that task as daunting. I see myself as looking back over the receipts, scrolling through emails. Did I remember everything? How will I lay this out? Have I got enough done? So automatically I'm putting a lot of negativity on top of that. So therefore I'll be sitting there, I'll go, oh God, I'll need absolutely hours now to do that. And then it'll be, do you know what? I won't today. What I'll do is I'll do that tomorrow when I have the whole day to do it. And that, if that shows up regular for me, which it has until I actually sat down and did my books, that's me procrastinating on that because I'm putting a huge amount of negativity on it. And the the crappy part about it is when we frequently procrastinate, we can actually cause anxiety and stress in our own lives because then particular tasks we're procrastinating on are constantly ahead of us because we're constantly avoiding them. So each day you're getting up and feeling the stress of having to do that task. Each day you're getting up and feeling the anxiety because you avoided it the day before and the day before and the day before. So although by us procrastinating in the moment, we're avoiding the stress and anxiety of that task by doing something that we prefer doing. Over time, we're actually creating more stress and anxiety. So it's definitely one worth looking at. And it's one I've worked on quite a bit in my own life because it showed up a lot. And as I say, especially when I started out in business or when I wanted to work more on my own physical health and my own well-being, it showed up quite a bit. I'd tend to avoid when I first wanted to start going running again. I think of every reason not to run. And it was easier for me to kind of sit at home and stay on the sofa and say, do you know what, I'm going to do that tomorrow. And because I alleviated some of the stress and the anxiety that I wasn't a good runner, which I couldn't be because I wouldn't start. I was alleviating the stress in the moment. I was in compounded feelings of failure because every day I think of the day before when I didn't do it. So looking at the nature of what causes procrastination, it really, really helps us in moving through it. People that are procrastinators tend to have a very high level of fear of failure. Procrastinators really, really worry about failing, which stops them starting the task in the first place because they're fearful and they're anxious about it not being good enough. They tend to be perfectionists. So they know rather than getting the task done, sending it off, that they will spend hours and hours going back over it and back over it and back over it. They tend to have very, very high standards and expectations for themselves. And these feelings cause procrastination. Studies have shown that people who struggle to regulate their emotions or have low self-esteem are far more likely to procrastinate. Most of our reactions come back to our own self-esteem. And behind that, developing some emotional intelligence is absolutely key around it. If we have low self-esteem, we're then overthinking, we're overstressing, and we're over worrying. And again, we're setting the bar very high, and with our low self-esteem telling us we won't achieve it anyway, these are some of the reasons we avoid the tasks. It was taught for years and years that procrastinators needed better time management and more discipline. That was certainly something I said to myself in the past. Oh, you're not focused, you're not disciplined. That's why you procrastinate so much. You need more time management, you need more discipline, you need more focus. Again, hammer myself more. And these are things that I will give you some tips on how to manage time, discipline, and different bits and pieces like that. But the root of procrastination is, again, as I mentioned, low self-esteem. People that procrastinate are really, really hard on themselves. So building in some emotional intelligence, one of the key pillars is awareness, understanding where it shows up in your life. What things are you procrastinating on? Where are you telling yourself, what tasks are you regularly avoiding? Where are you telling yourself that you're not good enough, that your work is not good enough, whatever it is that you find yourself procrastinating on? It's looking at where it's shown up in your life first. And what we have a tendency to do that drives procrastination is we tend to see the whole staircase rather than just one step. seeing the entire thing, like going back to the example of me with doing my books, seeing me sitting down and having to do 12 months of me business books. Now, the truth of the matter is, I do them month on month, so most of it was done. All I had to do was a bit of tidying up. But I built it up into such a big event that I'd have to scroll through emails and all of this to have everything meticulously beyond perfect. That's what was driving me to procrastinate. It was my own level of perfectionism. Or what if something went wrong? What if you made a mistake? What if you didn't add things in? What was the big deal there? It was how I built it up in my head and the expectations I'd set myself. That was causing a big problem. Where had I broke that down to bite-sized tasks and said, okay, do 1 month of last year's books. Then when you have that done, do the second month, small steps. Broke that 12 months down into 12 steps. That really debilitates procrastination, because then you have a much smaller task to do. And what you're doing then is, when you've achieved the fourth month, when you've the fourth step done, that drives your motivation and your confidence, because you see you're fully capable of doing it. So being aware of when we're creating huge events, like I've clients at the moment they're sitting their leaving cert and they're completely daunted by all the exams that they have to sit, rather than just seeing one exam, one block of 2 hours or 3 hours that they have to sit that one exam, and looking back, and this is a part of what I work with them, looking back on the amount of other exams that they've sat in their lives. How many times have they sat exams? They've sat mocks, Christmas exams, summer exams, so many times throughout their lifetime. And as I say to them, this is just you going into a room and sitting another exam. You walking in and doing something that you've done so many times, but it's your mind that's building it up to be so much bigger, and you're focusing on all the exams you have ahead of you. The work there is done. There's very little else that your mind will take in that will be the difference between you passing or failing at this stage. Now it's going into the room and it's sitting there for that time just to complete that one exam, when effectively that's 2 hours out of your life, and it's something that you've done a number of times. So again, breaking it down into bite-sized chunks. And here's another thing, I suppose, that again showed up a lot for me, that really I think supports procrastination. When you finally get yourself to do a particular task, be it, I don't know, as I say, be it doing your books, starting a diet, doing whatever it is, going absolutely hell for leather into it. Like, say you finally get yourself to sit down and do a particular task you've been avoiding. Sticking with it and staying with it for hours and hours and hours and hours, because you're saying to yourself, oh, I finally have myself doing this. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to take a break. I'll keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. That makes that task horrible, because you've pushed yourself through walls, you've exhausted yourself, you've sat there for hours and hours and hours beyond when you should have taken a break and rested. So therefore, the next time you think about doing a task like that, that's what you remember. That's what you're thinking of. You're thinking of that relentlessness that you've put yourself through. So going hell for leather when you've got yourself into things, not taking breaks, drives procrastination. It does not help it, and it comes from fear. You're going, if I don't stay with this, well then I'll start avoiding it again. No, you probably won't. For procrastination, once you take the first step, once you do the first thing, that in itself kills procrastination, because that's the very thing you're avoiding. It's like you hear yourselves, with going to the gym. Just go, just get dressed for the gym. That's your first step. Get dressed, start putting on the gym clothes, start wearing the gym gear. Drive up and walk in the door of the gym. You don't have to stay, have a walk around. It's these small bite-sized chunks, because what we're doing is we're seeing ourselves in a gym 6 days a week going, how will I ever fit in that time? I'll be absolutely exhausted. My body's going to be killing me, or I'm going to be eating super healthy doing all of this. And we're loading onto ourselves. And again, then we start avoiding it because we see it as such a huge deal, because we've created such a huge deal. So breaking it down into bite-sized chunks and just seeing the now. One question that I regularly ask myself now to work with procrastination is, what can I do now? In this moment, what can I do? And as I'm just doing that, whether it's recording one thing in my books, whether it's going out and running for a quarter of a mile, not saying to myself, I've ran half marathons in the past, and I go through cycles where I'm running for months, then I stop for months, then I run for months. And I notice when I'm restarting to run, what I'm doing is I'm saying to myself, right, we'll go out and we'll run for 3 miles. No wonder I'm daunted by it. No wonder I procrastinate. I'm asking myself after months and months of not running to go out and run 3 miles. So if I break that down and say to myself, okay, for this week, we're going to aim for a quarter mile. Quarter mile is what you want. You're out, you're doing the act. That's it. Doing the act. That beats procrastination. That's what I need to achieve. So again, lowering the expectations that I'm putting on myself. That's the biggest hit I know personally I have. The level of expectation that I put on myself, and that drives procrastination. Another great way of working with your expectations of yourself is looking at the expectations you have of other people. We tend to set the bar extremely high for ourselves. But if you asked someone else to do that task, or someone else came to you and said, I'm completely daunted by doing this particular thing, look at the advice you'd give them, and it's taking your own advice. As I mentioned, one of the key things that sits behind procrastination is low self-esteem. It's fear that you'll fail, fear that you're not good enough, feeling insecure about doing those particular tasks. When it comes to dieting, it's looking back at every other time you failed and not seeing the fact you've tried, not seeing that you started, you made the effort, not seeing where you got, only seeing where you fell down. So shifting your perspective is absolutely huge, and bearing in mind that if you have not made it to your goals the last time, you have all that knowledge, you have all that learning, and you can use that to build blocks from and to move you forward. But taking the first step is key. So for me, some of the things that I've learned in what I do, and some of the things that I build in to stop me procrastinating, is one, I obviously I've worked on my own self-esteem over the years, and the feelings of shame I had, and what had me hiding in the dark and procrastinating on a number of things. So I worked on that hugely because that's the root behind it. But other things I did was I built things into my life. One of the first things that I started with was my morning, because as a lot of my clients and groups will tell you, I focus on win the morning, win the day, building in a stellar morning routine. If you're diving out of bed and legging it straight into work and have nothing of enjoyment built into your morning, well then you're starting your day with daunting tasks, with work tasks. Whereas if you allow yourself, get up a little earlier and do something exciting, do something you enjoy, even if it's just sitting completely chilling, drinking your cup of coffee, if you love coffee, or something you enjoy, reading a bit of that book, listening to motivational quotes, listening to a podcast. It's called happiness as an inside job. Doing something you enjoy. Another thing that I did, and I found this great, was we all have this horrendous shrill alarm sound that goes off in the morning that you dive out of bed. I changed my alarm sound to a song that I love. My one is Follow the Sun. I have a couple of them that I use on different days, but I have one of my favourite songs as my alarm, and it's really motivational. It's lovely, and that's what wakes me up in the morning. So I'm building the happy straight away. And I do something for me every day. I prioritize myself and my happiness each morning. Just simple, small things. I dance in the mirror, and that works for me with body confidence. That dancing is brilliant for getting rid of the issues in the tissues, and it sets me up for the day. I put on some music, I dance around. And exercise is another one that works extremely well, because exercise builds on a cellular level, coming from our mitochondria. It builds up focus, energy. It enhances us a huge amount. So exercise is profound. It releases endorphins. It shifts our mindset. It really makes a difference. But whatever works for you, if it's going round the block watching the sunrise, if it's finding something you enjoy and not seeing it as something daunting in your day, something you enjoy. I walk the dog. I take her out for an early morning walk because I love the fact she has such a happy head on her, and the ball is life. So that's a good start to my morning. Having a healthy, fabulous breakfast. Avoiding heavy sugars that are going to give you a crash later on in the day, because that will zap your energy and it'll give you time to sit down and start your procrastination. A huge thing is, and I do this now regularly, I have a little space at home that is my little designated office that I move down to as soon as I've done my morning routine. And the thing that I know I'll avoid, I get done. That's the start of my work day. I get those things done first. It stops me having the time to procrastinate and avoid all day. They're already done. And again, that enhances my mindset because I've had a huge success early morning, and I'm saying to myself, the rest of the day is much more of a doddle because I have those things out of the way. I feel successful. I'm saying to myself, that wasn't half of what you thought it was. And it makes a huge difference. So having them set first thing in the day. Another thing I do and I recommend is what I call box and block. One is boxing off the things you know that are your distractions. If it's your phone, if it's the remote control turning on the TV, whatever your distractions are, box them off. If they're not right in front of you, if they're out of the way, you have to think to go and look for those things. And then you become aware of your own procrastination. The block piece is building in small time blocks. Not saying to yourself, I'm going to hammer away for 10 hours. None of us can. Our brain doesn't have that level of focus. What I do is I walk for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, especially when I'm writing or when I'm doing anything computer orientated. Obviously, I can't do that when I'm working with clients. See ya, I'm having a cuppa, but when I can, I stop myself after 25, 30 minutes, take a 5-minute break. I might go water my plants, step in the garden, rub the dog, do something for 5 minutes. And that gives you that boost, and then go back. It's working smarter, not harder. Taking breaks is hugely important. Again, our focus and our creativity starts to go. We think we're working harder. You're not. You're killing your own focus. And again, driving procrastination, because the next time you think of going back and doing that particular task or going back to work, you're daunted by how it makes you feel. Because if you're sitting there for hours on end, you don't feel good. So doing things like that make a huge difference, and prepping as much as possible, whether it comes to, as I say, building time blocks, boxing off for healthy eating and nutrition, having those meals prepped, having them put aside, picking 4 hours in one day of a week where you meal prep, where you get it organized, where you write down what you're going to eat for the week or whatever works for you. With your exercise, building in the times you do it. I do mine early morning because it works for me. I get up earlier just to do it, and it sets me up for the day with those other things that I have built in. And this is the last thing, second last thing actually, I'm going to share with you. This one I wasn't a fan of for ages, but it's tied into setting boundaries with yourself, and it's telling yourself no. When I suppose when I was struggling with when I'm eating crap, when I'm eating really badly. One of the main things that I do is when I'm driving home from work, I stop off to shop. I stop off at the supermarket. Duns are little on my way home. I tell myself I need to go. I absolutely don't. And I go in and I buy chocolate, I buy popcorn, I buy all of those beautiful things. Then I tell myself I'll only need 3 squares. Never happens. And I go home, have a party, then give out to myself. This is the habit that I had, and one of the things I was doing. So I had to learn when I wanted to stop at the shop to tell myself no. Was I a fan? No. Did it take me a while? Absolutely. Now it's something that I don't even think about when I'm driving home. It's just built in. I just drive on home. It has made no difference. I have not starved, and it has stopped that bad habit that I had that just didn't make me feel good. I would get a short bit of time out of it, and then I'd end up feeling really uncomfortable, feeling guilty, and it took me away from my goals. And I seen it as a reward when it wasn't. So telling yourself no. And the last thing is journaling on it. Look at what you're procrastinating on. Write it down. Awareness, see where the habits are showing up, and then destroy your own fears. Why, Steve? Why are you afraid of doing the task? What is it you're telling yourself? What expectations are you setting for yourself? That destroying your fears, and then if it works for you, building in some accountability. Having an accountability partner, a group, or somebody else that'll hold you to task, but above all, I'll support you and be there and say to you, you will absolutely smash that. You will, having that built into your life, because sometimes we can't say it to ourselves, but other people are more than willing to step up and say it to us. And you deserve that, because as I said, procrastinators are by no means lazy. I have to say that because I do it quite a bit. I'm not lazy. But yeah, we're not lazy, folks. It is just something we've built in to avoid things due to our own fears. So working on your fears, working on your self-esteem will have you smashing all those amazing goals and feeling the way you want to feel. So that's it for me for this week, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it and got some fabulous takeaways. And as always, I invite you to connect in with me across social media, or check me out on my website, www.yourgifttoyou.com, or email me, linda@yourgifttoyou.com, guys, because I'd love to hear from you and any topics you'd like for us to talk about, or any more learnings that you want. And please remember, give me those reviews, because it keeps the podcast getting out there to more people. So chat to you very soon, guys. Bye bye.